Hey out there, welcome to today's Training Tuesday. My name is Heidi Reese, and I'm the Trainings Program Manager for Dayton Superior. I want to thank you for taking the time to come to today's training. What are we going to be talking about, Chuck? We're going to be what?
We're going to talk about one of the basics of concrete.
Basics of concrete with
Bar
bar supports. Yeah, so we're going to be telling you about some applications, how to use it, estimating, all that good stuff. But before we get to that, I want to remind you of some housekeeping rules. Just so you know, everybody who has joined muted so that we don't hear any outside disruptions, that kind of thing. But don't let that stop you from asking any questions or some, valid comments that you might have. You can do that throughout the presentation. I'll be off to the side looking at that, and we'll definitely try to get to a Q&A, a 5-minute Q&A at the very end so that you can get your answers stated to you live. You can do that through Zoom functionality. There's a chat and a Q&A area. You can do one or the other, and it goes to Chuck and Heidi, and we'll do it that way. So as a reminder, we record every one of these webinars so that if you are interested in either pushing it to someone who maybe couldn't make it, or if you want to re-review later on, or just, in a month, you're like, hey, Chuck said something really cool and I can't remember what that was. We put them all out on our Dayton Superior YouTube channel. In addition, we organize them all by product type on DaytonSuperior.com. So once again, DaytonSuperior.com. You just search for Training Tuesdays and you'll find 2 links. One to register for the next Training Tuesday and another one to see all of the past ones. Okay, so let's get started. Just a reminder that this presentation is intended for training purposes only. So if there's any kind of products, which there are mentioned in this presentation, please go to DaytonSuperior.com and look for technical data sheets, safety data sheets, application guides, you name it. So everything will be on the product page for that product, and you need to review that prior to doing anything with the products. So, like we said, we're going to be talking about bar supports, and with us is Mr. Chuck Hoke. And I know you guys have heard me multiple times, but a little bit about him. You know what? I should probably start these with a little quiz of, hey, what's Chuck's favorite color? What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Of course. Should have known that. Chuck's favorite color is blue, everyone, for Dayton Superior. Woo! So, in addition, he has been hanging in this industry for over 50 years and quite diverse. I love that word diverse because he is. Not only is he book smart with this stuff, but if you ask him, in 75, what did we use? Blah, blah, blah. And he'll probably pull it out of his office desk and say, you mean this thing? And I'm not really kidding. So he knows his stuff is my point. And he is also very in touch with what is happening out in the real world as well. You don't find that too often with people who have been in the industry for a long time, but he's still got his buddies who are calling him about precast, tilt up, you name it. He knows all kinds of engineering stuff. And he's going to talk to you today about bar supports. Come on,
All right, thanks, Heidi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Embarrassed you.
Yeah, now you've got me all flushed in the face.
Mr. Blue.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about bar supports. We're going to talk about what type, where do you use what type of bar support, whether it's got a sand base on it, a tower chair, just a standard easy chair, etc. How to actually determine what size you're going to be required, and also answer any job site questions that you have. So with that, we're going to move on here. If I can find the mouse. Bar supports. 3.41 is the application, the use of bar supports. This actually comes from the CRSI manual standard practice. It will basically if you run through the standard manual standard practice, it will state that, maximum spacing on all bar supports is 4 foot on center. These are recommendations. Typically anything a little bigger than that, a lot of times what'll happen is the bar will deflect when concrete is poured on it. So you typically try to keep the bar pretty much in plane with the concrete surface. So, and bar supports are generally estimated and furnished basically for all beams, girders, joists, slabs, pretty much every place you have concrete, okay? Including vertical applications too, in a wall configuration. Uh, the steel reinforcement is typically designed to be placed at a strategic point within the concrete. A lot of times, if it's a single mat of rebar, it's typically going to be in the center. Sometimes you will see it on the lower half, sometimes on the upper half, depending on deflection in the concrete slab and what they're actually looking at. And remember, the concrete is always going to crack. The steel reinforcement is there primarily to help limit those cracks and actually reinforce the actual concrete itself. Bar supports are not intended to support hoses for concrete pumps, runways for concrete buggies, or other similar loads. The bar support is designed to carry man load and concrete and the rebar. Not designed to carry all the other items here. So you have to be very careful when you're using a concrete buggy or whatever on a deck, running it back and forth. Although most jobs today, you see probably the majority of them are actually pumped in place, so you don't typically have those issues. But, so let's get started with how do you determine what bar support do you need, what size? Well, obviously, a lot of times what you will get is you will get a concrete coverage from the ground or substrate to the bottom of the rebar. That is going to be the height you are required to have. Now, what's going to be interesting there is, and a determining factor is, what's your substrate? Are you talking compacted soil? Are talking concrete? Are you talking, let's say, a tilt-up project here, where you're gonna have fresh concrete, you're gonna pour concrete, and you're gonna be pouring another panel on top of it. All those things come into place as to what bar support you're going to want and use. Because not all bar supports, even though they have the same height, are not really good in certain applications, primarily because they may show a little bit something that you don't want seen.
What's that mean? Little
Well,
topper on the concrete?
well, typically what happens if, let's say, tilt up, for example, you do not want to use a sand-based product on it because the sand base is going to be sitting on what would be the face of the concrete. So when you pick your concrete panel up, you're going to see that base of the bar support.
Because it moves and it kind of shows and it indents it, right?
It shows up and uh, I can tell you it is a very expensive proposition because I have had that a customer ended up, he made the mistake and used a slab chair, a base chair for this concrete slab in his wall panel. And he had to come back and grind them out and epoxy coat them before they come through and paint it. So it does, there is issues with that situation. Yes, exactly. So we are looking here, and typically, so you want to make sure what your substrate is, if it's a sand base, solid base, etc. So with that being said here, let's look at what happens is, well, what happens if we go to a uh, concrete slab that has 2 mats of rebar. Now, we have a bottom cover here of 1.25 inches. Number 4 rebar on the bottom cover, on the bottom rebar. And a lot of times you'll get the upper mat of rebar will be put in place. And it's going to be a different size, maybe 4s, maybe 5s, maybe 6s. It's all up to the engineer. So typically here, you're gonna have to figure out what size rebar you have for your upper mat and what you have for your top cover. Now, we know that the slab is 10 inches thick. So we take that full 10 inches thick, we deduct the top cover, which is 2.5 inches, which is from the top of the rebar to the top of the concrete. Then you're going to have your rebar dimension that rebar is taking up there. Number 5 bar and a number 5 bar is typically going to be 1.25 inches. That's 10, basically, for those of you that don't really know that much about rebar, rebar is listed in eighths of an inch. So typically a number 5 bar means it has a 5/8 inch diameter. So a 5/8 and a 5/8 gives you 1.25 inches. The bottom rebar is typically going to be 1 inch because that's the number 4 bar, which is a 1/2 inch bar. So a 1/2 inch bottom bar, 1/2 inch top bar means that you have 1 inch of rebar. The bottom cover is 1.25 inches for the bottom coverage. So you deduct all of those incidental items from that 10 inches of deck thickness to come up with the slab bolster that will fall right in the middle of that slab. Hence, we would use a 4-inch slab bolster upper. I like to use upper on this here. Some locales and some specifications across the country may not allow you to do this. And if they do, then what you'll have to do is support everything from the formwork off the ground. So you will have to use a tower chair or a straddle chair, something that will straddle the bottom mat of rebar and allow you to support the top mat of rebar. So, and we can help calculate that out here for this job here in particular. It's going to be 4 inches plus 1 inch for the rebar thickness. That's a 5-inch plus the 1.25 inches gives you 6.25. So you're going to have a 6.25 inch individual high chair to go in that location. So what types of rules of thumb? The big thing we talked about here is what is our substrate? So here we're looking at our soil or granulated fill compacted. Individual chairs with a sand base or wide footprint. The wide footprint basically is going to distribute that load. So it's going to actually support the rebar better, especially when people walk on top of it because you got that point load where the person is walking. It'll help distribute that load along. You can also use slab bolster with a flat base, PSBU, plastic slab bolster upper, or you can use a standard slab bolster with plate. If you have a hard substrate or a concrete form, typically I would recommend using a plastic tip or an all plastic chair. Now these plastic tip is actually going to help alleviate any problem of having any steel components of the bar support being on the surface of the concrete, which means if that happens, it can rust. So those plastic tips actually help alleviate any rust capability problems that may arise. The plastic chair is my go-to because plastic doesn't rust. Even when it gets knocked over, it's still not going to rust. And they have actually a very small footprint. A lot of times they'll have a pointed tip on it, so you actually have a very little bit, very small contact surface area. So, and then anytime you have spanning rebar or from corrugated deck or material or substrate imperfections, etc., a lot of times you may end up using like a slab bolster upper on that. And the slab bolster upper typically has a runner on both legs on the bottom and a runner on top to help support the rebar. And those runners on the bottom obviously are going to span those imperfections. So, okay, so now we told you what you got to have, what type you got to have.
Hey, there's your favorite color.
Hey, there's my favorite color. So we're going to look at how do you estimate how many chairs are you going to need? Well, depending on the placer. So I've got a ton of placers that will only space at 3 foot on center. I've got a bunch that will space at 4 foot on center because that's the maximum amount, so they're trying to save a few bucks, and rightfully so. if you have a 5 bar or 6 bar, you can actually do that because the bar is a little more rigid. So, but typically with a smaller bar, and even with wire mesh, you have to be very careful on the spacing of the chairs because the wire mesh or the lighter rebar will actually deflect within the concrete slab. So basically what we're going to do is let's calculate the square footage of the slab. So here I've taken the 200 times 160 minus the 90 feet here. It's going to give me basically 14,000 square feet. I have 90 by 75, which is the smaller area here, to the right, or excuse me, to the left of the drawing here. Uh, that is good, and you're going to basically end up with 6750 on that. You add the two together to get 20,750 square feet. For individual chairs, typically individual chairs are a cheaper option than a slab bolster or slab bolster upper. For individual chairs, I like to go 3 foot, excuse me, 3 foot by 3 foot. And that is my preference. Uh, if any of you that know me, I'm a big guy. I walk out on a slab, I'm gonna make it move. Plain and simple. So I like to go a little bit tighter. Excuse me. So I would space it out at 3 by 3. Gives me a grand total of 2,306 chairs. Neat. To make sure I had enough shipped out to the job site, because it never fails that you will have a job in the middle of nowhere and you will try to do it tight and you'll end up being a handful short. So to do it, to make sure I have enough here, I'd add 5 to 10%. So I'd probably add this one here up to about 20, it's just, 2,536. I'd probably go, depending on quantities, how they're packaged, I would go probably anywhere from 24 to 2,500 chairs for this project. That would make sure that you'd have enough for the job and to actually take any other areas where you may have a chair that you may found that you may have had to put an extra chair in, you lost the chair here, whatever. It would take care of all those situations. So let's say we got now it's a double deck here, double mat of rebar. So you find the bottom bar direction on your continuous chair will run perpendicular for it. So in this one here, we're going to run slab bolster. Slab bolster typically is the green line represents the rebar, the bottom mat direction of the bottom mat of rebar. So here you see it's running longitudinally across the slab. Here you're going to take the 200 divided by 4, because I'm going to space slab bolster at 4 foot on center because it is going to cost you more originally. The 4 foot will accommodate the bar load. Depending on sizes, you shouldn't have an issue, but typically CRSI recommends everything 4 foot or less. So here I'm going to have 50 rows of bar supports running transversely in this slab. So I'm going to add one to start with. So that's always a rule of thumb. So I'm going to have 51 rows. 51 rows times 160 minus the 90 feet here typically is going to give me a grand total of 3,570 lineal feet for the blue section. Now, step 4 we're going to take in is we got the 75 feet here from the bottom, because our top next mat is going to be running transversely on this slab, because the two slabs will typically always run perpendicular to each other. So one running longitudinally across the slab, the next mat that's sitting up above it is going to run transversely. So with that being said, we're going to take our 75 foot divide it by 4, give you 18.75. Round it up to 19 because you just can't leave that one hanging out, that 1 foot hanging out. And you're always going to want to start with one. So I'm going to round it up to 20 rows. So 20 rows times 90 feet is going to take care of my 1,800 lineal feet for the little, on the lower left-hand part of the slab. And then for the rest of the slab, I'm going to need approximately 5,500 lineal feet in place here. Basically, altogether about 6,300 feet altogether uh, for the upper slab. So, by running calculations is fairly quick and easy. We're here at Dayton Superior to help you out with any of your situations. If you need to help some assistance with how to run the calculation or how to actually run it through, things you want to take into consideration is you want to look at bar supports that, especially in a bridge project, you may end up changing rebar sizes halfway through the pour. Especially in tension zones on bridge structures, they have a tendency to upgrade the rebar strength. So they'll upgrade a size or two of the rebar. And then that may only be a small span before they drop back down. So those are things that we need to always take into consideration when we're talking bar supports and supporting the wire, or wire mesh or the steel reinforcement within the slab. Now, when we talked about slabs on grade, we have a lot of options. I mean, you're talking here, 10, 12 different options right off the top, between the top mat and the bottom row, just in plastic chairs available on the on the right-hand side, you got some of the slab bolsters that are available. On the left-hand side, we have what we call our concrete dobies. Concrete dobie is for lack of a better term, it is a concrete block. It is shale and cement mixed together to create a reinforcement component that can typically be used to support. I would recommend slab on grade only, primarily because these things are shale and cement, and when they're cured, they're very dry. They will suck the moisture out of concrete and give you shrinkage cracks if you try to do it on something that's going to be exposed. So as long as it's going to be sitting on the ground, wet them well before you basically soak them right up before you pour your concrete, and go to town with it. They are a great option. They're a 4,000 psi material, so they're good and strong. Now, some of the chairs here, what type do I need for what rebar? Well, we listed here a quick little list here that kind of gives you a quick cheat sheet. Plain rebar. So you got plain bar supports, galvanized bar supports, epoxy bar supports, and plastic bar supports. Galvanized rebar. You're typically going to go with galvanized bar supports or a plastic bar support. Epoxy rebar. Epoxy bar supports or a plastic bar support. GFR. You are looking at plastic bar supports are the only item we currently have available for that. Or you could use a Dobie. Stainless steel rebar. You can use stainless steel bar supports, but make sure that the stainless steel is 100% of the bar support and not just the tips. Or you have plastic. The one component, as you can see, all the way down through here, no matter what size, what type of rebar you have, plastic bar support is a viable option for any of the rebar that's specified or needed for your project. Metal bar supports, now we're talking old school. So metal bar supports have been around since the 1950s, I believe it was. it comes in a wide variety. Set plates for sand bases. We got plastic tip, plastic dip. We got slab bolster upper, continuous high chair upper. We have zigzag material for, and then when you use wire mesh, that's the wavy material down here on the bottom of the drawing of the details. And we have obviously slab bolster upper and continuous high chair upper, depending on sizes. And we've kind of listed for what the options are, where they all fall into place here. The metal bar supports realistically are still a great option for 90% of the rebar projects on the site. But plastic is actually what I'll call a new generation, but it has been coming in and around for the last 40 years. I mean, it really has taken a big chunk of the business away from metal bar supports. And the plastic supports actually do a very good job of supporting the rebar. So with that being said, the plastic supports, you've got everything from paving chairs to spacers to slab bolster upper. We have specific chairs for wire mesh. We have most of these chairs are actually bi-directional, so you can turn it one direction for one size, turn it 90 degrees for a second direction for a different height. And the chairs themselves are very competitive cost-wise within the marketplace. Other items that we've had, we talked about the Dobies on the left-hand side here. We also get into any of the tie wire that can be used with it, 16 and a half gauge material. And then we also have our Cody clip for tying number 4s and number 5 rebar available.
We've got our Cody Clip product manager on. He's gonna like it. You said that.
There you go. And that'll take care of, the new battery operated gun will do a 4 or 5 bar. We have air guns, pneumatic guns that will actually do 4, 5, and 3, 4, 5, and 6 rebar. And they are all color coded based off of rebar sizes and so forth. And it's a good option, especially if you're talking in the GFR market or the epoxy or even the stainless steel market. So anytime you have concrete cast in place walls for etc. For concrete formwork, any of these chairs here, whether it be a space wheel, slab bolster, individual chairs, they can all be adapted to actually accommodate concrete formwork for actually a wall spacer within the structure themselves before you pour the concrete. If you need assistance with that, please feel free to get a hold of us here at DaytonSuperior.com. And that's part of one of the resources that we actually offer here at Dayton Superior for. Not only do we have at DaytonSuperior.com product pages, tech data sheets, safety data sheets, our handbooks, more. You will also find a sheet there to actually how to get a hold of any of the regional salespeople. You can also get a hold of Heidi and myself on that, unfortunately, but yes, that is our number to get to us if you need us. So please contact us if you have an issue. And with that, I am going to say thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please put them in on the chat functionality and Heidi will actually look at them and feed them over to me. And we will go with that.
Thanks, Chuck. So yeah, while you guys are putting in your questions, if you have any, just a reminder that we do this weekly as of right now, and we will be doing grouts and grout sleeves next week. Yep. So sign up for that one. I'll have that ready to sign up in, well, about half an hour. And then also another reminder, we record each of these and I'll have this one posted out there. I know some of you had asked me for the link. If you just simply bookmark or search on DaytonSuperior.com, there's a training Tuesday. Just search on that. And you can, here's a question, Chuck. let you look at that while I'm finishing my spiel. So we put them out there, search on DaytonSuperior.com, Training Tuesday. You'll find the link that has all the latest, and then everything will be out there from what we've done in the past with the product. So the question is,
The question is, are all your products domestic? No, they are not. Some of them are. We do have specific products that are listed as made in America, so they meet the BABA requirements. But you need to get a hold of your sales rep who would actually be able to get that. We can certify any of the products that we have that are made in America, that they are BABA compliant.
I believe customer service can also do that
Yeah.
too and get you a letter. So either way, you know, whoever you want to talk to. And did you talk about the map? I was kind of looking at.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I figured you had. I kind of zoned out there thinking about your favorite color, I guess.
Get our phone number.
Yep, but that's, oh, yes. And I said, that's my line. So I was halfway listening, apparently. Okay, these guys on the phone are like, yeah, shush. Any other question, guys and gals? It doesn't look like it. So, okay, if you do, you can contact us at training@DaytonSuperior.com or on that contact sheet that I forgot about and then remembered again. And then we can get those answered for you. But I appreciate you coming. Chuck does too. And we'll see you next week. Bye now.
Thanks, everybody.